everything illuminated from my heart. And it just cracked me wide open. And because that is the only way I can explain what happened next. What happened next was incredible because I kept looking up and above past my kids, and I happened to see this beautiful black sky and kind of like your background right now, but more darker, but I could see through it. So I was now outside of this white room and I was in this big, beautiful black sky. But in that darkness, I could see rows of people sitting and they were facing me. I couldn't see their face because it was almost kind of like they were so distant that I saw their shadow, and I couldn't hear them, but I knew that they were praying for me.
I'm very happy to have Leena Zafary with me today. Leena, thank you so much for being my guest. I'm really excited to hear about your near-death experiences.
Thank you so much, Tia. I am so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm excited to share my story and, whatever comes from it.
And you actually had two near-death experiences and just a bunch of amazing spiritually transformative experiences as well. Tell me how this all got started for you.
Wow. So I did. I've had two near-death experiences, one at birth, which I don't have the memory of the experience, but there's a lot in it. But really where I think my journey and my story starts, where I kind of like woke up, was in my near-death that happened in 2014, which was about 10 years ago. And pretty much after that near-death experience just left this portal open to the universe, and I've just been getting experiences and downloads and experiences. So yeah, it's been interesting.
That's amazing. So it was about 10 years ago. How did you almost die?
So about 10 years ago, at the time I was living in California, but I went on vacation to Texas, and during my last couple of days of vacation, I caught a cold. By the time I got home, I was having such severe chest pains breathing that I checked myself into the hospital. So once I was there, it turned out to be a 9-day hospital stay, just to get checked out. What happened is I actually got admitted to ICU because I contracted the H1N1 virus back in 2014. And basically that was very similar to COVID, where it affected the respiratory system, the lungs. And I found myself in the hospital, 5 days in the ICU, with two lungs that were deteriorating by the minute. And pretty much that was the end of it. So by the 5th day, both lungs kind of shut down. I was in the ICU and I had an experience, an awakening, NDE, or, there's different terminologies, but I woke up out of both the sleep that I was in the hospital and in the sleep that we call life. I woke up to both of them because I consciously woke up in the hospital room and completely outside my body and fully present and aware consciously and having an experience, which I never thought of anything afterwards because it was just like, it was so real. It was like, it was real, but it was a dream, but it was real because it doesn't make sense for it to happen. But when I got up, when I woke up, I was miraculously healed. So something happened within my experience. So the experience itself happened pretty much while I was in the ICU in the hospital. By the 5th day, both my lungs had pretty much given up and shut down. And my family was kind of given, a chance to say, we've done everything we can, but you got to prepare. So that's the kind of the feel of what was happening the day I had my NDE, being in there. But my recollection is completely different. You know, for me, what happened that day was I woke up. Like the way I'm sitting in front of you, I woke up. I was like, oh, I look over to my right. And all of a sudden, first I realized I'm awake and I'm sitting in the ICU room. So there's no surprise. It's not like I'm shocked. Oh my God, where am I? I wake up and I'm sitting and I'm just like this. I'm in the hospital room. I know I'm in the ICU room. And then I happen to look over to my right and I look down and I realize that I'm sitting at the edge of the bed that my body is laying on. So I see my entire body laying right there. Like I'm sitting at the edge of my feet and I'm looking at my body. But it's weird because like I never felt like, oh no, there's my body, because oh no, I'm here. That's just my body. It's almost kind of like I saw it, but it wasn't like, it was just like it was just there. So as I'm looking at my body, then I'm kind of brought back here and I'm looking and I happen to realize, okay, so I look down on my own self. I look down at my body, and just like I'm sitting down, I could see my arms, my legs. I can see my entirety the way I'm sitting, but except I'm completely clear. I'm see-through. There's no skin, body, bones. It's just I could see through myself, but I could see my shape. And again, it was just like, oh, that's me, you know? So now I'm telling you the story kind of like in a linear way, but none of this happened in a linear way. So it's almost like this is happening, this is happening. It's almost like where my awareness goes is what's happening. So as my awareness is here, I'm looking here, and now all of a sudden I'm back, like my attention is kind of going towards the right because I hear a voice. And this voice is talking to me, but it's kind of like a maternal voice, a female voice, a strong voice that says, Leena, you got to go back. You've got to go back, but you're the only one who can decide. You got to decide. You got to go back. So I'm listening to this and I'm like, okay, it's my choice, obviously, but I'm not really having thoughts. Like there's no thought processes in my head, but now I'm looking at it and watching myself. I'm like, so I heard this message and I'm looking and I just proceed to observe my surroundings. And I'm hearing this voice and the urgency in her voice asking me to decide and just make a decision and go. I'm also kind of guided to like look over this way to my left. And as I look to my left, I realize that sitting down in front of me are my two children. And so this part is the hard part, because the 9 days that I spent in the ICU, when I was in the hospital, I was completely unconscious. I have no memory. I don't remember anything. I was pretty much knocked out the entire time because I couldn't breathe. I had a breathing thing on me. So it's not like I can talk. I was always knocked out. But there's only one thing I remember, that every time I would wake up, I would try to say, please let me go home. I'm fine. I got to go home. My kids are waiting for me. So outside of my NDE for a second, I want to take you back a little bit, because at the time before I went to the hospital, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was married and I had 2 children. My son, who was about to turn 5 at the time, while I was in the hospital, days away, and my daughter was only 18 months old. So I was one of those moms that was, I devoted my entire 100% attention and existence on my children. So I was also a nursing mom. When I see my kids and the voice that's telling me to go back, it's not my time and I need to be quick, the urgency she's sending me is about my children. And I know that because all I've been wanting to do is go back to them. So the moment I saw my 2 kids, it's almost like in the big, bright, white ICU room, the lights went on. It's like everything illuminated. Everything came alive. It's like, I don't know how to explain it to you. I don't want to say infused everything, it uplifted. Like I was just like, oh, you know, I was happy. My soul lit from within, seeing my kids. Because I spent 9 days trying to go back to them, wanting to go home to them. So in my NDE, the voice was telling me to go to them. And when I saw them, I was reminded of them, and that's all I wanted. So it just, I think what happened to me is it activated my heart chakra and everything illuminated for my heart. And it just cracked me wide open. And because that is the only way I can explain what happened next. What happened next was incredible because I kept looking up and above past my kids, and I happened to see this beautiful black sky and kind of like your background right now, but more darker, but I could see through it. So I was now outside of this white room and I was in this big, beautiful black sky. But in that darkness, I could see rows of people sitting. There was like rows of people sitting and they were facing me. I couldn't see their face because it was almost kind of like they were so distant that I saw their shadow, their shape in the distant. They were so distant that it was just dark silhouettes of people. And I couldn't hear them, but I knew that they were praying for me. I felt all of them showed up in prayer for me, behind my children, for praying for me. And at the realization of that moment, it was almost like, even just talking about it, it's almost like fireworks ignite inside and it's just love, you know. And it was just, I was so blown away, touched by it, that I wanted to look closer to see who they were. So as I gazed at each one and I focused my attention and I looked closely, when I looked at one of the silhouettes, it's almost like the silhouette would rise up and come closer so I could have a better view, because I wasn't doing this. I was in my space, but what I was looking at was coming to greet me, meet me. And as they would come close, it was almost like I could no longer see the person, but I could see you. But in your face was just the flame of a candle. It was the light of the candle. So I didn't get to see who it was, because as they came close, they turned into light. And it was just like, oh, they're all just light. So they would go and I would look at another one and the same thing, they would rise and come close. And they got close for me to have a better view. All I would see was light. So that happened. And then I was brought back into attention because this is all happening like really, really fast. But I hear the voice again. And this time the voice is like, Leena, you got to hurry up and make a decision. Come on, you got to go. Kind of like she's got this urgency in her voice. And I look, and to be honest with you, Tia, at that point, it's almost like the TV got turned off and movie's over. Done. That was it. And I came back into my body, but I have no memory of it. I don't remember going into my body. I don't remember waking up. I don't remember opening my eyes or speaking. I don't recall being in my body for at least another day. So a couple of things happened. Number one, my family was told that they should prepare for me to leave because both lungs were gone and I was not responding to any treatments 5 days in the ICU. Like they've done all they could. So the fact that I had this experience and then I woke up 100% healed, I was able to breathe completely on my own. I had no memory of what happened to me. I was in complete, I have no idea, but apparently I woke up, I was hungry, I asked for food, and my husband at the time I don't know what I asked for, but at the time, my husband had a very, very good friend who owned a chain of restaurants whose food I liked. So there's a picture of me sitting there in the hospital room. It's a burger and fries, eating a big burger with fries and a drink the day after, or the day I woke up from the ICU. So none of these things were ever talked about. None of these things were explained to me. It took me years to piece all these things together the way I just explained it to you. So it's been quite a journey, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow. So you didn't remember being on the other side or the beings of light or anything like that when you first woke up?
Nope. When I woke up, I was not conscious at all. At all. I had to see a picture of myself. I didn't even know I woke up and ate. I have I found that about 2 or 3 years ago, because at the time, I was married. My husband, who was with me throughout this whole 9-day journey, documented my hospital stay through pictures and videos. So there's pictures and videos of me in the hospital and ICU in different stages of my health. So I see what happened to me. I'm piecing back together what I clearly remember when I had my NDE, as and then what happened to me physically, because I wasn't there physically before or after. You know what I mean? So I had to piece together before and after through pictures and stories, but it took me many, many, many years to do that.
When do you remember first becoming conscious after your experience, after waking up?
That's a very good question, because the only thing I remember is walking to my car with my husband out of the hospital room, and I was walking with him. I walked out of the hospital. I walked out. It blows my mind because I didn't know it at the time. Now it blows my mind, but I was in the ICU, almost dead, couldn't breathe on my own because I had no lungs. And then a day later in discharge, I walked to my car, and I remember driving home kind of like knowing where I'm at, but not having any memory, but knowing, like, not know. It's hard to explain. It's not like that I forgot who I was or what I was or where I was going, but the only thing that was in my mind was this present moment and who these people and what but nothing else was, nothing else in my life. I couldn't remember nothing else, but I didn't have amnesia, if that makes sense. So I don't want to confuse.
It does make sense. So do you think maybe you hadn't integrated back into your body, your essence yet?
I think it took, I think it took a day for me to consciously be in the body, to have, okay, I'm in the body and I'm walking. That's when my consciousness entered my body, but my body was back alive and functioning before my conscious got into it, which is very interesting because I don't have a memory of getting in my body or waking up in my body or even asking for food or having conversation. None of it.
So as time went on, you started to have memories of what happened while you were in the hospital unconscious. Is that correct?
It's not like it was memory. It was almost like, it's like never forgetting what you did yesterday. It's like you waking up and you having a dream last night, but every morning waking up and your dream is just as clear as when you just woke up. Have you ever had a really, really good dream where you woke up and you remembered it vividly? You're like, oh my God, then I saw this and there was this and there was that. Imagine never forgetting that, ever.
How did this experience while you were in the hospital, how did that integrate into your consciousness? How did you, I guess, remember it?
Ah, well, well, I never forgot it. I always knew it, but it was almost just like this floating dream event. I did, so my NDE happened in 2014 in January. In 2017, I actually had, and up until 2017, I had no clue that something had even happened to me. I did know that I got sick. I did know that I was in a hospital, and I did know that I recovered and came home, but I had nothing else about that experience for the next 5 days was a question in my mind. It was almost like I remembered everything. I knew how it felt. Every time I thought about it, the love that I felt, I could feel it again, the same emotions, the same energy. So I knew something happened, but I didn't know it was a thing. So I never looked for any meaning to it. I was like, oh. 3 years later, I had a spontaneous spiritual awakening, if that's what you want to call it, which basically just means that unintentionally, without, because even after 3 years of having an NDE, I was not a meditator. I did not meditate. I was not spiritual. I did not do any of these practices whatsoever. Completely. I was like not even in this spiritual world of self-help, none of it. So in 2017, I actually went to a float tank with some cousins as a fun activity, nothing else. It was just kind of like, let's go bungee jumping. We went to a float tank. And in that float tank, I had an experience that literally like it cracked me open. And it was so incredible that it actually, that ignited me to start really like, I can't explain into words, but it just cracked me open. And after that, it was all, everything just came. And then I found IANDS. And then I realized that what happened to me in 2014, oh, that was called an NDE. That's what happened to me. That's when I realized that I had a near-death experience. That's when I understood what it meant and what had happened and how it affected me. Like, because after my NDE, for the next 5 years, my life was a downward spiral. I was completely a complete mess. It was very hard to function coming from those experiences and having to be in the world. It was very difficult. So I struggled a lot. And in that struggle, I also learned a lot and integrated a lot and really found my own center. So that's what's been giving me the ability to sit here and share. And after understanding it, both on what exactly it is and how it affects us, because I know my own journey, my own path, and for every person who has chosen to share their story, every one of those helped me understand my experience just a little bit better. And that is what I want to do, is I want to share my experience so that I could be somebody's layer in understanding something that they're going through, because that's kind of like how I see it. It's like, we just try to understand the different layers of reality that we're in.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that because it is so helpful for so many. And people that haven't even had near-death experiences, like myself, I never had a near-death experience, but I find great comfort in learning about near-death experiences and the different lessons that come from them as well. This experience was just a part of you. You didn't really put too much thought into it being like a near-death experience or something strange that happened to you while you were in the hospital. It was just like a part of who you were.
It was just part of an experience I had one day.
Yeah.
That day that I went to the hospital, I didn't know I was as sick as I was. I didn't know that I nearly died physically in the human body. I didn't know how serious my complications were. I just remember going in and going home.
And so were you at like a pivotal point in your life, or was there a reason that you think this experience happened to you then and there? Was Do you feel like it was given to wake you up from something or to tell you something?
Mm, good question. Yeah. To be honest with you, I don't know the exact reason. And I think, so I entered this world in a very interesting, miraculous way. And I've always had this side of me that's been open to the other side, to the spiritual world. But because of my upbringing, cultural and religious background, upbringing, there was no space in my head. There was no place to put it. There's these two parts of me. So grew up, and most of my life, I tried to bring the balance of being here. So I would shut this part out, this world. And I lived most of my life avoiding here just to survive, because I could see too much. So I think I lived my life very, like, I needed to wake up, because I wasn't living for me. I was people pleaser. I wasn't aware of me. I wasn't conscious of me. So I guess in a way, maybe God, universe, wanted me to have that experience of seeing myself, because I've always lived from the heart. I think I've naturally existed with my now that I have terminology for it, the heart chakra, heart space. Being a sensitive person, I've always been labeled as a sensitive person. So sensitive people tend to live in their heart space. And when you're in your heart space, life could be hard and difficult and cruel, because you pick up on the sensitivities of the world and the cruelties of the world. So yeah, but I think it was definitely the universe's way of nudging me and waking up to me, to see myself, to see the true spirit of me. Because I think when we are in our heart space, and when we can connect from heart space to our spirit, I think we become like a light in this world, because we do. I think we are able to hold space for people and to send energy from the heart chakra. And that's healing. Every time I share my story, I go back to that space. I go back to that consciousness that I call God or light or love. And I feel it again. And when I feel it, I express it, whether it's through my words, through storytelling, or whether it's through how I feel, and a sensitive person can feel it. Each person will pick it up on their own. But yeah, I think, when we have experiences like this, it's important to understand it the best we can, and to share it, because it is a gift. I am grateful. I do live my life in gratitude, because I could not be here right now. I'm here. My kids have a mom, so what a blessing. Everything else I can figure out somehow.
When you saw your kids in the hospital, were they actually there?
They were at home.
Yeah. So it was a reminder to you, like, you need to go back for your children.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I knew there was no other conversation. I knew without a doubt that it was the children, it was the love I had for them and the love they had for me that brought me back. Like, I came back for that. And I can't explain it to you, but since I've been back, it's like my purpose was to be a mom to my children and to be there. And I feel like on that level, I stuck to my purpose, and I've done that, so, and now I have a third one. So I do have 3 kids, but they're the love of my life. They're my joy. They are a constant reminder of source and love and light for me. So they're my fuel. They're everything, so I live my life, and everything I do to create a better space for me, for them, and everybody that they come across.
And I want to talk for a minute about your spiritually transformative experience in this float tank. Was the float tank, is that one of the sensory deprivation tanks?
Have you been?
I haven't been, but I would love to go. So
Oh,
have you gone again since?
oh yeah. The very first time I went, I had that experience, which I've actually shared. And it's quite lengthy. So after that, I tried to go back to different float tanks, hoping to go back and reconnect to that. Nothing. Nothing. I got nothing. I wish that the float tank was a doorway or a gateway that I could just pop into and automatically be transported into that experience. Because what a great way for anybody to have that. But I guess it's really not. I want to emphasize this. It's not that it was the float tank that I think it was the environment that created that, because like you said, it's a sensory deprivation tank, right? So when I'm disconnected from all my five senses, you know, I was automatically transported to the other realm. But I think that can happen whenever we detach our senses from the world and go in within. That's what meditation is. So I think experiences like this people have, mine happen to happen in a float tank.
Well, you said that you were cracked open. Tell me what that means. Go deeper into that. Cracked open, like your heart, your soul, and open to what?
In order for you to understand what I mean by cracked open, you have to know how closed I was, right? So here I was, even though I had a near-death experience, and my conscious mind, I'm clueless to it because obviously it didn't wake me up. My near-death experience didn't consciously wake me up. It was just an experience, like, you know, so I guess the universe thought, okay, well, she really needs one of these, because the experience I had at the float tank, I went in with no intention. It was just, let's go do something fun. And not only that, but I didn't realize this, but I was actually, I didn't realize what the float tank really was when I went to go do it. I literally heard about it and I went. And when I went over there and when I looked at the space, my first initial reaction was sheer terror. I was so scared. I was scared. First of all, I went into this place with the float tank that I went into, the room that I walked into. I was so scared, Tia, that I took out my phone and I made a video, like a 17 seconds, or I have the video, I've shared it. It's a video of me. Before I walked into this, I had to record it because I was so scared. I don't know why. I recorded it out of fear because I was like, what am I doing? I better record this, you know, like that moment. So I recorded it and then I went in. But I realized, I didn't know it at the time. Now I realize I stepped into my fear. I was terrified. There was a pool of water that I was supposed to go lay in, right? No lights, pitch black, no sound. And I'm in water. And mind you, I don't know how to swim. So for anybody who's a non-swimmer, the thought of that should terrify you now, you know? So, but I did it anyway. It was almost like this sheer terror pain came through, and it was almost like something just told me to walk right through it. I made a video and I walked right through it. And the moment I walked through it, after I put my phone down, everything just changed. So I went through the process and I went and I lay down in the water. It was pitch black. No sound, no nothing. And I'm laying there, and then all of a sudden I realized, what am I doing? I'm laying there in the water, pitch black. I open my eyes and I'm like, it is so dark in here. I can't see. There's no difference between my eyes being open and closed. It's that pitch black. I put my hand in front of me. There's no, pitch black. And all of a sudden, I realized that there's this voice that starts to speak to me. And it starts to talk to me and says, okay, kind of like, take a deep breath. It calms me down because I'm fidgeting. It says, calm down, take a deep breath. And I was like, okay. And I just listened. I didn't question. I took a deep breath, and I happened to also open my eyes, because it was at this point I knew it, but I still opened my eyes. As I took a deep breath and I opened my eyes, I looked up, I saw this beautiful white wavy smoke air, just, you know, like and end of a cigarette. If somebody's smoking a cigarette, this ribbon of smoke that comes from the end of the cigarette, isn't it just absolutely beautiful? If you ever watch it, but it was almost like that beautiful air. It just kind of came and it just came right in front of me. And I watched it go right into my nose and I breathed it. I took 3 breaths because I was told to take 3 breaths. And as I took these 3 breaths, all of a sudden, it was almost like there was this relaxation that happened. But now all of a sudden, I was so relaxed that the voice started to talk to me. And the voice started to say, because I was having trouble with, relaxing. All of a sudden, it went into it started to talk to me about my chakras because my neck was not feeling good. My neck felt like it was sore. And the voice just said, that's your chakra. And then it proceeded to tell me that that's one of my chakras. And it showed me that my chakras came down along my torso. And it showed me my sacral chakra and my throat chakra. Right? And basically, without any words, told me about my chakra system. But it did say that when I understand about my chakra systems, how each one is connected to my life outside, I will be able to heal myself both internally and externally. And I did not understand anything about what that meant. So before I went to that float tank, I had never heard of meditation. I'd never meditated. I never listened to anything self-help stuff. I never heard the word chakras. I did not know what a chakra was. When I was in the float tank and I was listening and it said chakras, it's interesting because I remember taking a mental note while I was listening. I remember taking a mental note saying, I wonder what chakras are. I should write that down so I can Google it later. And that's the level of conscious awareness I had in the float tank while I was there, because I was clearly hearing stuff. I was clearly understanding stuff, and I was taking notes. But what I was hearing and seeing is not something that was anywhere within my own mind or understanding. It is not part of my lifestyle. So it was very interesting because I learned about my chakra systems. It took me several more years afterwards to understand really what the chakra system was. For a long time, even then, after I came back, life was really, really hectic. Life was really, really busy. There was a lot more that happened in my experience in the float tank. That was just one of the experiences that I had there. But when I came back, there was just so much that it first it took me a time to understand it and analyze it and to integrate it. So since then, I've learned so much about the chakra system and how it affects our body and how it affects our human experience, both internally and externally, from our, how we live our relationships with ourselves, with our life surroundings, with our, the people in our relationships. Every one of these are layers of our chakras. And it's a beautiful thing. So that was one of the bits of my STE that was pretty interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
It makes me want to go try the sensory deprivation tank.
Float tank, I highly recommend it. I really do, because it has so many therapeutic benefits. I mean, since then I've learned a lot about it, but just being in the sensory deprivation tank, it really does help quiet the mind. It really does help quiet the nervous system and the physical body. And also the water is the perfect temperature of your skin, your body. So it helps keep your body comfortable, But the salt, the amount of Epsom salt that they put in the water changes the velocity of the water. So that means that you won't sink in the water because it becomes almost denser. But also Epsom salt water, laying in warm salt water, relaxing in that kind of mental, emotional, and physical stillness and relaxation for a period of time, it actually helps draw out all the toxins within our bodies, and it helps pull them out and releases them. So when you leave, you really like you shed toxins from your top of your head to your toes. Every pore just opens and cleanses and releases, and it feels really good. It's good for inflammation, good for pain. It's got a lot of benefits.
Hmm. And what did it feel like when you were cracked open?
Well, I didn't know I was being cracked open. Now that's the language I have for it today. But at the time, oh my God, I came out and it was like the smile on my face was coming from the inside, and it was so big, my face was constantly hurting because I was constantly stretched out into a smile. I literally walked around in bliss. I remember walking out and just feeling so light and so incredible that I had to check to see if my feet were on the ground, because I got this vision of, after I walked out, I had this vision. Oh, we're humans are like those cable cars, you know, those the rides, bumper car rides that you go to, and some of them have the rod and the cable that's kind of connected to something on top, where, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Okay, it's weird, but I saw it as as humans, we have that same kind of connection to the earth. So when our feet or any part of our body touches the ground, we literally, we are like, we're connected to the gravity of the earth, so it keeps us down and we get to have the human experience. But anytime we can detach from the human earth and kind of be in water, we have the ability to be in earth and kind of like unplug from this to kind of be able to experience that side, the spiritual side, you know, our inner landscape, because our imaginations and our minds, depending on how much we nurture it and grow it and feed it, it's a beautiful place to be.
You're cracked open now, and what does that mean for you? Do you have like a direct line of communication with the other side? Do you have psychic abilities, clairvoyance, anything like that?
I don't. Oh, it's so funny because I want, sometimes I could be funny, I guess. I was gonna say I don't identify as a psychic, but I do have all the clairs, you know, clairaudience plus clairsentient. I'm very, very sensitive, and I do feel like I have this open portal that I have access to on the other side. And the experience in the float tank, my spiritually transformative experiences, learning about my chakra system was the very beginning. I got to have a lot more experiences of being out in space and having many other downloads and insights. I was actually shown the micro and macro of the universe and Earth in the universe and our space in it. Kind of like the Earth is the micro of the universe. The Earth is the macro of us. We are a micro of the universe in the Earth. So there's a lot that was experienced, and from it I've had to learn to understand it and integrate it in life here. So it has given me the ability to be able to empathize and see through my all my clairs, different depths of information with people, you know, like I do see the micro and the macro of situations, of things. but that just gives me the ability to see truths. So do I say I'm psychic? No, because I don't see what's happening tomorrow, but I see how everything works and how everything, the micro of it, how it got there, the macro of it, all the potentiality of it, and where you want to go. So what do you have to do to go to that side, if that makes any sense? So that's how I see my world.
It's kind of like as above, or as, what is
As
it?
above, so
As
below,
as above, so below. And
as within, so without.
yes, as within, so without. Have you heard of the holographic universe? How every little facet is identical to the bigger and bigger and bigger facets. And if you just alter one of them in the tiniest bit, it alters the entire universe going out forever. Is it kind
Yeah,
of similar to that?
yeah. And here's the thing. We humans are at that pivotal moment to where if once you understand that, that change, when you change whatever it is now, you change its past and you change its future by changing it now. Because whatever it is, you can change it now. You can't go back and change something. You can't go in the future and decide something. You do everything from your moment of now. Maybe I can share a little bit about, what I do. Part of the reason why I'm speaking with you and sharing my story with others, like I said at the beginning, is, it was through the sharing of other people's stories that I was able to look at my own experience and actually not to judge it or compare it to other people's, but to be able to look at my own experience and say, okay, now that my experience, I can sit in it and look at my own experience and integrate my experience. Because until you hear that somebody else had experience and what you experienced is valid, you're not crazy, you're not the only one. And when you feel like you're the only one and no one understands you and you can't speak about it, you can't integrate it. So it was when I understood what happened to me, it was when I understood what it was, the science behind it, the medical behind it, the spiritual behind it. When I understood all these things is when I was able to process my own experiences and heal from it and be where I am today, which is why I can't even tell you. My heart's in joy all the time. And I truly do live in that space. So I share my story because I know I'm not the only one. I know there are people who are having experiences, whether it's in your death experience or whether they're having a spiritually transformative experience in a float tank or in a meditation or through, one of the psychedelics people take. When you have an experience, it still needs to be processed. And that's something that I think people need. And I think having been there, having had experienced it and processed it, I just want to be a space where somebody else can say, okay, it's digestible, it's processable, it's doable. She could do it. I'm gonna go find and deal with mine. And that's kind of everything I do stems from that. So sharing here with you, I want to say thank you for letting me share because I did that. And second, I'm also the founder of IANDS in Las Vegas, a chapter of IANDS. It's a small and upcoming group, and I just want to share that with the world. And if anybody is feeling like they need a space to express what they felt or experienced, or they have questions, that they can come to and speak with me directly or share their experience or whatever it is that they're searching for. So if somebody is watching and connected and called to, there's a space, and it's IANDSLasVegas.com.
Thank you so much for the service that you're providing for others because it is very helpful. And I know from direct experience how helpful near-death experience is and just having that community that understands. A lot of people don't understand just in the general population. So having those around you that you can tell your story to that understands can
Hmm.
make the world of difference in
Yeah.
our healing journeys and just our life in general. So bless you for doing that. And
Yeah.
so IANDS.com or LasVegasIANDS.com, is that what you said?
IANDS Las Vegas.
Okay. So IANDSLasVegas.com, is that the best way to reach out to you?
You can reach me out there, or you can reach me. My email is lenazafary.com. I also have a website under lenazafary.com, just to make it easier, because I do a few different things that kind of keeps me organized. So you can reach me through there as well. Message me directly, or social media. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'd be happy to connect with anybody if they have a question, or they want to share their story or experience.
And if you had one message, Leena, that you wanted to leave the audience with today, one thing you'd want them to take away from our conversation, what would it be?
We come from love and light, and we go back to love and light. And this human experience, we really do have more say in it than we are led to believe. So it really is a matter of, finding the strength within, connecting within yourself. And within you, there's a treasure chest of knowledge and wisdom for your own path. And, you know, the best thing you can do is learn how to connect with your own self. And from there, that connection, the stronger that connection, the better guidance you will receive. So the best advice I give is learn how to connect with yourself.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for all that you do. And thank you for coming on to be my guest. This has
Thank
been
you.
very, just a complete honor for me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. Same, likewise. I'm honored to be here and share my story. Thank you for giving me space.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.